The snow was falling heavily, the cold biting through every inch of clothing. Logan Pierce stood on the porch of his mansion, the scent of burning wood and the faint music of a holiday gathering inside the house, but his focus was fixed on the small figure standing near his mailbox. A little black girl, her worn shoes sinking into the snow, stood frozen in place with a crumpled envelope in her hand. Her eyes, wide and full of something between hope and fear, met his gaze. He called out, his voice breaking the silence of the night. "Hey, what are you doing over there?" The girl's head jerked up, startled, and she froze, her hand still inside the mailbox. She was small, no more than 6 or 7, and the worn-out backpack slung over her tiny frame seemed to weigh her down more than the snowstorm around her. Logan stepped down from the porch, the snow crunching under his boots. "What the hell are you doing in my mailbox?" he asked again, his voice carrying the edge of frustration, but there was something else there too. The girl pulled her hand out, holding up the torn envelope with a fragile, almost sacred look in her eyes. "I'm looking for my letter," she said quietly, almost as if she hadn't meant to say it out loud. Logan raised an eyebrow. "Your what?" he asked, stepping closer. She didn't respond immediately, instead pulling the envelope tighter to her chest, the edges frayed and faded. "My grandma sent it here a long time ago. I thought maybe it would come back this time." Logan blinked, a shiver running down his spine, though he couldn't tell if it was from the cold or from the way the girl's words seemed to echo in the still night. He frowned, confusion wrinkling his brow. "That's not how mail works, kid," he said, but there was a hollow feel to his words now. The girl didn't move, her breath forming little clouds in the air, her shoulders hunched as she stood in the snow. It was clear she wasn't used to being seen, let alone being spoken to with any kindness. Logan stared at her for a long moment, something unsettling in the way she held herself. She wasn't like the others he had seen, spoiled children with their gleaming clothes and polished shoes. This little girl was different. Her clothes were torn, patched together with scraps of fabric, and the baby she held wrapped in an old towel looked hungry, cold, and lost. Logan's gaze softened for just a second, but he shook it off, not allowing himself to feel anything. "What happened to your face?" he asked, his voice quieter now. The girl hesitated before speaking again, her voice steady, almost too steady for someone so young. "He said I talked too much." Logan clenched his fists, his heart tightening as anger surged through him. This child had been beaten down by life, and here she was, standing in front of him, asking for something as simple as a letter from someone who had clearly left her behind. Without thinking, Logan reached for the letter she was clutching and took it gently from her hands. As he did, he saw the name on the envelope, Ruth. The name made something inside him snap. Ruth, the housekeeper who had worked for him, the woman who had stayed when everyone else had gone. Ruth had passed away years ago, and Logan had never asked why she left so suddenly. He had never questioned it, never thought to ask. But now, looking at this little girl, he saw something that made his chest tighten. She had come to him, not knowing who he was, not knowing that Ruth had once been his closest ally, his trusted friend. His breath caught in his throat as he turned the letter over in his hands, wondering how the world could be so cruel to this child. "What's your name?" Logan asked, his voice softer now. The girl blinked up at him, almost surprised by the question, and then answered simply. "Anna," she said. Logan's throat tightened, his mind racing with questions he couldn't answer, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't know what to do. He stood there, looking at her, not knowing how to help, not knowing if he even could. He was a billionaire, a man who had everything, and yet, standing here in the snow with this little girl, he realized he had nothing that mattered. And in that moment, he wasn't sure if he should just let her go or invite her into his life, into his home. But as Anna turned and started walking away, the wind biting at her, Logan took a step forward, his voice suddenly urgent. "Wait, you can't just leave like this." She stopped but didn't turn around. "I'm not going anywhere," she said quietly, her voice barely audible over the wind. Logan stood frozen for a moment, torn between his instincts and the strange pull he felt toward this girl who had asked for nothing but a letter she'd never receive. "I can't believe this. The nerve of her," Logan Pierce thought, standing in the driveway of his mansion, staring at Anna's retreating figure. She had asked him for something as simple as a letter, and yet, he felt as though the weight of the world had fallen on his shoulders in that moment. He had everything, a fortune that could last lifetimes, a mansion, cars, power, but nothing to offer a little girl standing in the snow with a crumpled envelope, looking for something long gone. His mind was racing, torn between wanting to offer her help and the overwhelming guilt that had crept into his chest. He stepped forward, calling after her, his voice strained. "Wait, where are you going?" Anna paused but didn't turn around, her small frame almost disappearing into the swirling snow. Her response was barely audible, yet somehow it hit him like a ton of bricks. "I'm not going anywhere." She said it like she was talking to herself, like she was resigned to the cold, to the hurt, to being left alone in this world. Logan felt his throat tighten. "You can't just walk away like this. You need to come inside. It's freezing out here." The girl didn't move. She was still, standing in the middle of the driveway, her breath forming little clouds in the cold air. She wasn't even shivering. "I don't need anything from you," she said, her words cutting through the air with a quiet strength that made Logan pause. "I don't even need a home. I just need a father." The words were soft but full of meaning, and they caught him off guard. He stood frozen for a moment, feeling the full weight of her statement. A father? Logan had never considered what it meant to be a father. Sure, he had everything, a successful career, a perfect house, and people who worshipped him. But a father? No, that was never something he had cared about. Not until now. His thoughts were a whirlwind, trying to make sense of it all. How did a girl like Anna end up here? Why had she come to him? He had no answers, no solutions, just confusion. "You don't even know me," Logan said, taking a step closer. "Why would you want anything from me?" Anna turned slowly, her eyes meeting his for the first time. There was no fear in her gaze, just a quiet sadness. "I don't want anything from you," she repeated. "I just thought you could help. That's all." Logan felt a pang in his chest, something raw and unfamiliar. He had helped people before, charities, organizations, big causes. But this was different. This was a child, standing in front of him, asking for something as simple as a chance at a normal life. "You can stay for a while," Logan finally said, his voice quieter now. "Just come inside. It's too cold out here." Anna hesitated but then nodded slightly, still holding onto that envelope. Logan motioned toward the house, and as she followed him, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just made a decision that would change everything. Inside the warmth of the house, Logan led Anna to a small sitting room near the back of the mansion. He gestured for her to sit, and she did, cautiously, like she wasn't used to being treated with kindness. Logan stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her. She looked so small, so fragile, like a piece of glass that could shatter at any moment. He didn't know what to say, but somehow, the silence between them didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt like a beginning. This was a child, standing in front of him, asking for something as simple as a chance at a normal life. "You can stay for a while," Logan finally said, his voice quieter now. "Just come inside. It's too cold out here." Anna hesitated but then nodded slightly, still holding onto that envelope. Logan motioned toward the house, and as she followed him, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just made a decision that would change everything. Anna smiled faintly, but it wasn't a smile of joy. It was one of quiet relief. She still hadn't let go of the envelope, still holding on to the last piece of her hope, the last thread that might tie her to something, or someone, who cared. Logan watched her for a moment, feeling the weight of her gaze. He didn't know why, but for the first time in his life, he wanted to be someone who could help. He stood frozen for a moment, feeling the full weight of her statement. A father? Logan had never considered what it meant to be a father. Sure, he had everything, a successful career, a perfect house, and people who worshipped him. But a father? No, that was never something he had cared about. Not until now. His thoughts were a whirlwind, trying to make sense of it all. How did a girl like Anna end up here? Why had she come to him? He had no answers, no solutions, just confusion. "Thank you," she said. Logan turned back to her, surprised. "You're welcome," he said. And just like that, something changed. Logan Pierce, the billionaire, the man who had everything but no one to share it with, realized that he might have just found what he had been missing all along. I am sitting across from her now, in the warmth of my living room, the sound of the fireplace crackling softly behind us. Anna is sitting on the couch, her tiny frame swallowed by the oversized cushions. Her hands are clenched tightly around the worn envelope she hasn't let go of since I brought her inside. I can see her glancing around the room, her eyes wide, taking everything in, but there's a caution in her gaze. She's not used to this, I can tell. I don't know what to say, so we sit in silence. There's an awkwardness between us, but it's not uncomfortable. A strange one, yes, but a beginning nonetheless. Anna glanced up at him, breaking the silence. "You know," she said softly, "I never met my father. I don't even know if he's still alive. But my grandma, she used to tell me stories about how he helped people, how he was strong." I thought, maybe you could help me too. Logan's heart clenched again, but he didn't know why. "I'm not your father," he said gently, though the words felt hollow in his mouth. "But I'll help you. I can help you." "Thank you," she whispers, but there's a hesitation in her voice, as if she's unsure of how to accept something that's given to her without asking for it. She takes the spoon and dips it into the bowl, but she doesn't eat right away. Her fingers tremble slightly as she holds the spoon, and I realize that she's not just hungry, she's nervous. Nervous about being here, nervous about being taken care of, about having something that she didn't have to fight for. It's the kind of silence that hangs in the air when two people are figuring out how to begin something that neither of them knows how to handle. Finally, I break the silence. "You're hungry, aren't you?" Anna nods. Just a slight movement of her head, but it's enough for me to know. I stand up and walk to the kitchen, grabbing a bowl of soup I had ordered earlier. I had no idea what she liked, but soup seemed like a safe bet. When I bring it to her, she looks at it for a moment, then up at me. The girl who had been standing in the cold, the one who hadn't asked for anything but a letter, was starting to trust me, just a little. I watch her for a while, as she eats, and for the first time in a long while, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Purpose. She might not know it yet, but I do. She's here for a reason, and I have a feeling that this is just the beginning of something much bigger than either of us could have imagined. After she finishes, she sets the spoon down and looks at me, as if weighing something in her mind. Do you think my dad is still alive?" The question catches me off guard, and for a moment, I don't know how to answer. It's a question I never expected to hear. "I don't know," I say finally, my voice soft. "I'm sorry, but I'll help you find out." She nods, but I can tell it's not the answer she was hoping for. I'm not sure what she's hoping for. The more I think about it, the more I realize how little I know about her, about what she's been through, about who she really is. I feel like I'm standing at the edge of something, not sure whether to jump in or walk away. But I can't walk away. Not now. "Can I ask you something?" I ask, leaning forward slightly. She looks up at me, her dark eyes steady. "Why did you come to me? I mean, you didn't know me. Why come here?" She doesn't answer right away. Instead, she looks down at her hands, then back at me. "I thought you could help me," she says quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "My grandma said you were a good man. She said you helped people." I freeze. The name Ruth hits me like a punch to the gut. This little girl who has been abandoned by the world, has come to me because Ruth, the woman who worked for me, believed in me. Ruth, the woman I took for granted, the woman who had been there for me when I needed someone the most. I can't believe this. Ruth had believed in me, and now this little girl is here, believing in me too. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to be what she thinks I am, but I know this. I can't let her down. "I'll help you," I say again, my voice steady now, more confident. "I'll help you however I can." She smiles, just a little, but it's enough to make my heart catch. It's the first real smile I've seen from her, and it's enough to make me want to keep my promise. Anna doesn't know it yet, but this is where everything begins, and I won't stop until I find out who she really is. The truth, whatever it may be, is out there, and I'll help her find it. I woke up to a quiet house the next morning, the soft sunlight filtering through the curtains, casting a warm glow over everything. It felt like any other day, but it wasn't. It couldn't be. Anna was still here, sitting in the guest room I had prepared for her the night before. I had offered her a place to stay, a roof over her head, but I hadn't really thought through what that meant. Now, as I walked downstairs, I felt the weight of the decision pressing on me. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do next, but something inside me told me I had to keep my promise. I couldn't just send her away like the others did. I couldn't ignore the trust she had placed in me. Anna was sitting at the kitchen table, her legs swinging back and forth as she stared out the window. She looked like a child now, no longer the guarded, distant girl I had met the night before. But there was still something behind her eyes, something that spoke of hurt, of loss. She hadn't spoken much since we arrived, just eating her food and keeping to herself. But today felt different. "Morning," I said, trying to break the silence. She turned to me, and for a moment, her eyes flickered with uncertainty. But then she smiled, a small smile, but real. "Good morning," she replied softly. I sat down across from her, feeling the tension in the air. "How are you feeling?" I asked, the question almost feeling too simple for everything that had happened. Anna shrugged. "I'm okay, just thinking." "About what?" I asked, leaning forward. "About my mom," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I haven't seen her in a while." I froze. The last time she mentioned her mother, it had been in passing, and now, hearing her say it out loud, I realized how little I knew about Anna's past. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked, my voice gentle. Anna didn't respond right away. Instead, she looked down at her hands, tracing the edges of the napkin on the table. "My mom, she wasn't always like this," she said, her voice shaky. "She used to be happy, but then things got bad, and I don't know what happened. She just changed." She paused, as if the words were heavy in her mouth. "And now she's gone. I don't know where she is. I just know that I'm not supposed to be with her anymore." My heart ached for her, for the confusion and pain she must have felt. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but I knew this wasn't something that could be fixed with a few kind words. It wasn't something I could just solve. "You're safe here," I said softly, trying to offer some kind of reassurance. "You don't have to worry about that." She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. "I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore," she said, the vulnerability in her voice cutting through me. "I don't know if I can trust you." The words stung, but I understood. Trust was something that couldn't be demanded. It had to be earned. "I know it's hard," I said quietly, "but I'm here. I'll help you however I can." She didn't say anything else, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was thinking, processing, trying to figure out what to do next. The silence stretched between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable anymore. There was something in the air now, something that felt like the beginning of a real connection. Anna was slowly starting to let her guard down, and I could see it. She was trusting me, just a little, and that was enough for me to know that I had to keep going. "I know you're scared," I said, breaking the silence, "but I won't let you down, I promise." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I could see the hesitation in her eyes start to fade. "Thank you," she whispered, the words barely audible, but they were enough. I knew this was just the start of something much bigger than I had imagined. I had no idea where this path would lead, but I was willing to walk it with her. Anna had come to me for help, and I wasn't about to turn her away. Whatever it took, I was going to be the one to help her find the answers she needed. The truth was, I hadn't really known how to approach this situation. I had brought her in, given her shelter, and promised to help her find her answers, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized how little I knew about her past. Her mother, the mysterious figure she spoke about, was still a ghost in this house. I could tell Anna was scared she wasn't used to kindness, or to people who didn't want something from her. I had to change that. The truth was, I hadn't really known how to approach this situation. I had brought her in, given her shelter, and promised to help her find her answers, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized how little I knew about her past. Her mother, the mysterious figure she spoke about, was still a ghost in this house. I could tell Anna was scared she wasn't used to kindness, or to people who didn't want something from her. I had to change that. I had to make her understand that I wasn't like the others who had come and gone from her life. It was a cold morning when I finally decided to take action. The air outside was crisp, and I could feel the weight of the decision pressing on me. Anna had spent the last few days silently staring out the windows, barely touching the meals I had arranged for her. She wasn't talking much, except for the occasional quiet answer to my questions, and I had to admit, I was concerned. I couldn't help her if she didn't let me in. I knew she needed more than just food and shelter. She needed reassurance, something that would help her believe that she wasn't just a lost child in a big house. I had to get her to trust me. I had to give her a reason to. So, that morning, I decided to take her out. "Come on, Anna, let's go for a drive," I said as I entered the guest room. She looked up at me, startled, like she wasn't sure if I was serious or if I had some hidden agenda, but I wasn't going to push her. "I just thought you could use a change of scenery," I continued, trying to make my tone as casual as possible. "I won't make you do anything you don't want to do, but I think you'll like it." She hesitated for a moment, her fingers playing with the edge of the blanket, then slowly nodded. "Okay," she said quietly. I smiled, relieved that she was willing to go along with it. We didn't talk much during the drive, but I could tell she was observing everything. She was quiet, taking in the passing scenery as we drove out of the neighborhood and down the winding roads. It wasn't until we reached the edge of the town that she finally spoke. "Where are we going?" Her voice was small, unsure. "I thought we could stop by the park," I said, looking over at her. "I used to come here when I was younger, to think. It's peaceful." Anna didn't answer, but I saw her nod slightly in the corner of my eye. When we pulled into the parking lot, I parked near the edge, where the trees lined the walking path. We both got out of the car, and for the first time in days, I saw her walk without hesitation. She was still careful, still unsure of everything, but she was taking steps, and that was enough. We walked side by side for a while, the silence between us comfortable. The park was empty this time of year, the trees standing bare against the sky, but the air was fresh, and the quiet seemed to settle around us like a soft blanket. We stopped near the lake, where the water was still and calm, reflecting the gray sky above. Anna stood by the edge, her hands tucked into the pockets of her jacket, her eyes on the water. "You know," I said, breaking the silence, "I used to come here when I was upset. It helped clear my mind." She looked at me then, a little surprised, and I could see the curiosity in her eyes. "Why?" she asked. "Because when everything else felt like it was falling apart, this place felt like it was still, like everything was just okay, for a while." Anna was quiet, but I could tell she was thinking about what I said. After a moment, she turned to me, her expression more serious than I'd ever seen it. Do you think it's okay to not know who you are?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. There was so much more going on behind her eyes than she had ever let on. "I think everyone feels that way at some point," I said softly, my voice steady. "But that doesn't mean you're lost. It just means you haven't found what you need yet, and you will." Anna seemed to relax a little, her shoulders dropping as if a weight had been lifted. She didn't respond right away, but I saw the smallest smile tug at the corner of her lips. It was enough. For the first time since she had come into my life, I felt like we were making progress. It wasn't much, but it was a start. After a few more minutes, I turned to her, my tone lighter. "You ready to go back?" She nodded, her smile still there, faint but real. "Yeah, I think I'm ready." We walked back to the car, side by side. But this time, it felt different. She was quiet, taking in the passing scenery as we drove out of the neighborhood and down the winding roads. It wasn't until we reached the edge of the town that she finally spoke. "Where are we going?" Her voice was small, unsure. "I thought we could stop by the park," I said, looking over at her. "I used to come here when I was younger, to think. It's peaceful." Anna didn't answer, but I saw her nod slightly in the corner of my eye. When we pulled into the parking lot, I parked near the edge, where the trees lined the walking path. We both got out of the car, and for the first time in days, I saw her walk without hesitation. She was still careful, still unsure of everything, but she was taking steps, and that was enough. We walked side by side for a while, the silence between us comfortable. The worry, the stress, the quiet pain that had been building up inside her was finally starting to show. I felt my stomach tighten as I saw her like this. "Hey," I said softly, walking over to her. She didn't look up. "Anna," I said again, kneeling beside her. Slowly, she raised her head, her eyes red from crying. It broke my heart to see her this way. "I don't know what to do," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I wasn't just helping her anymore. We were both in this together, and somehow, that felt like the first step towards something better for both of us. It had been a week since I had taken Anna in, and I still wasn't sure what I was doing. Every day felt like a challenge, but it also felt like I was on the verge of something important. She was starting to trust me, just a little, but there were still so many gaps between us. Things unsaid, and questions unanswered. I don't know where she is, I don't know if she's alive, and I don't know who I am anymore. Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw the weight of everything she had been carrying. "Anna," I said, my voice firm but gentle, "you don't have to figure everything out right now. We'll do this together, I promise." She wiped her eyes, nodding, but I could tell the doubt was still there, lingering in the back of her mind. "I'm scared," she said, her voice shaking. She looked up at me, her eyes still filled with uncertainty. But I could see a flicker of hope there, just a small glimmer. "But how? I don't even know where to start." I stood up, thinking for a moment. "I've got some contacts, people I trust," I said. "We'll figure this out, one step at a time." I could see she wanted to argue, wanted to push back against the idea of someone else getting involved, but she didn't. She just nodded, wiping away the last of her tears. "Okay," she said softly. The worry, the stress, the quiet pain that had been building up inside her was finally starting to show. I felt my stomach tighten as I saw her like this. "Hey," I said softly, walking over to her. She didn't look up. "Anna," I said again, kneeling beside her. Slowly, she raised her head, her eyes red from crying. It broke my heart to see her this way. "I don't know what to do," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know where she is, I don't know if she's alive, and I don't know who I am anymore." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw the weight of everything she had been carrying. "Anna," I said, my voice firm but gentle, "you don't have to figure everything out right now. We'll do this together, I promise." She wiped her eyes, nodding, but I could tell the doubt was still there, lingering in the back of her mind. "I'm scared," she said, her voice shaking. The worry, the stress, the quiet pain that had been building up inside her was finally starting to show. I felt my stomach tighten as I saw her like this. "Hey," I said softly, walking over to her. She didn't look up. "Anna," I said again, kneeling beside her. Slowly, she raised her head, her eyes red from crying. It broke my heart to see her this way. "I don't know what to do," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "This is her," I said softly, pointing to the woman in the photo. "This is the woman you're looking for." Anna nodded. "I don't remember much. Just the good things," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The rest is all blurry." I could see the sadness in her eyes. It was like she had been holding on to that blurry past, afraid to see the rest of the picture. "We're going to find her," I said again, more determined this time. "We're going to find the truth." Anna looked at me, then down at the photo, her fingers tracing the edges of the paper. For the first time, I saw a sense of resolve in her. It wasn't much, but it was a start. We weren't there yet. We still had a long way to go, but this was the first time in days I saw a glimpse of hope in Anna's eyes. We weren't just going through the motions anymore. We were fighting for something, and together, we were going to find it. I woke up early the next morning, as usual, but today felt different. I don't know where she is, I don't know if she's alive, and I don't know who I am anymore. Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw the weight of everything she had been carrying. "Anna," I said, my voice firm but gentle, "you don't have to figure everything out right now. We'll do this together, I promise." She wiped her eyes, nodding, but I could tell the doubt was still there, lingering in the back of her mind. "I'm scared," she said, her voice shaking. It was a call I had been waiting for, an old contact of mine, someone who might know something about Anna's mother. I picked up the phone, my heart racing. "Logan," the voice on the other end said, "I found something. It's not much, but it's a start." The words hit me like a bolt of lightning. I sat down, trying to steady my breathing. "What is it?" I asked, my voice tight. "I was able to track down a name. I can't tell you where she is, but I know where she was last. She was seen at a shelter about 2 towns over. It's the only lead we've got." I felt a rush of relief, followed by a rush of doubt. A shelter. That wasn't much, but it was something. "Thank you," I said, before hanging up the phone. I took a deep breath, gathering myself. This was it. This was the moment we had been waiting for. I walked to Anna's room, where she was sitting by the window, looking out at the garden. She turned when she heard me, and I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. She knew I had been on the phone. "What did they say?" she asked quietly. I walked over to her, sitting down beside her on the bed. "We've got a lead," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We know where your mom was last. There's a shelter about 2 towns over. We can go there and see if we can find out more." Anna's eyes lit up with a mix of hope and fear. She wanted to believe me, but I could see the walls she had built around herself, the fear of disappointment, the fear of another dead end. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if it's nothing? What if I just end up getting hurt again?" My heart broke for her in that moment. I had no idea what she had been through, what kind of pain she had carried with her all this time. But I knew one thing: this was her chance to find something real, something that wasn't just another empty promise. "I'm sure," I said softly, placing my hand on hers. "We'll go together, and we'll keep going until we find the answers you deserve." She looked at me for a long moment, and then, slowly, she nodded. "Okay," she said, her voice stronger now. "Let's go." We drove for what felt like hours, the road stretching out in front of us like a never-ending path. I could tell Anna was nervous, her hands fidgeting in her lap, but she didn't say anything. She was holding it all in, as she had been doing for so long. When we finally reached the shelter, I parked the car and looked over at her. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded again, but her eyes were distant, lost in thought. "Yeah, let's just find her," she said, her voice firm. We walked into the shelter together, and I could see the anxiety written all over Anna's face. The building was old, the paint peeling in places, but there was a warmth to it. It wasn't a perfect place, but it was a place where people went when they had nowhere else to turn. We approached the front desk, and the woman behind the counter looked up at us. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice kind but tired. "We're looking for someone," I said, my voice steady. "A woman. Her name is Ruth Thompson." The woman's face shifted slightly, and I could see the recognition in her eyes. She hesitated, then nodded. "She used to stay here," she said slowly, "but she left a few weeks ago. I don't know where she went, but she wasn't alone. She had a little girl with her." Anna's breath caught in her throat, and I could see her face pale. I squeezed her hand, trying to offer her some comfort, but I knew how hard this was for her. She had just found out that her mother had been here, and now, the trail was getting colder by the minute. "Do you know where she went?" I asked, my voice growing more urgent. The woman behind the desk shook her head. "I'm sorry. I wish I could help more. We didn't have much contact after she left, but I know she was in a hurry. She seemed like she was running from something." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Running from something. That was the first real clue we had gotten. Something had scared Ruth enough to make her leave in a hurry. Anna looked up at me, her eyes wide with fear. "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice shaking. "It means we're getting closer," I said softly. "It means we're not giving up. We'll find her, I promise." We left the shelter, but I could see that Anna was struggling to process everything. The fear was there, mixed with a sense of determination, but I knew she was still afraid, and so was I. But we couldn't stop now. We were getting closer, and I wouldn't let her down. Not now. Not ever. I watched Anna closely as we drove through the streets, the weight of the lead we had gotten from the shelter hanging over us. The woman at the front desk had told us that Ruth Thompson, Anna's mother, had been here, but that she had left in a hurry with Anna by her side. The woman didn't know where they had gone, but she had mentioned something about Ruth running from something. It didn't sit right with me. Why would Ruth run away like that? What had scared her so much? I glanced over at Anna, who was sitting quietly in the passenger seat. Her face was pale, her fingers fidgeting in her lap. I could tell she was thinking about her mother, about what she had left behind, about the truth that was still out of reach. I wasn't sure what to say. I wanted to reassure her, to tell her everything would be okay, but I couldn't lie to her. I didn't have those answers. I only knew one thing. We were getting closer to the truth, whether it was what we wanted or not. I pulled into the parking lot of a small diner. It wasn't much, just a quiet little place where the neon sign flickered in the dark, but something about it felt like the right place to stop, to take a breath before we pushed forward. "Anna," I said softly, my voice breaking the silence in the car. "Let's grab something to eat. We can talk for a bit." She didn't respond right away. Instead, she just nodded, her eyes still distant, lost in thought. I could see how much this was weighing on her. It wasn't just about finding her mother anymore. It was about everything that came with it, the fear, the uncertainty, the doubts. I parked the car, and we got out, walking into the diner. It was quiet inside, just a few people scattered in booths, the hum of the refrigerator in the corner and the soft clink of dishes filling the space. We sat down at a booth by the window, and the waitress came over to take our order. "Coffee for you?" she asked me, her tone friendly but tired. I nodded. "Yes, please, and a milk for her." I looked at Anna, who hadn't said anything yet. She looked up, meeting my eyes for the first time since we got in the car. "I'm not really hungry," she said quietly, her voice barely audible. I could hear the hesitation in her words, the way she was holding herself back. "You don't have to eat if you don't want to," I said softly, giving her a small smile. "But let's just sit for a moment, take a break." Anna nodded but didn't say anything more. She just stared out the window, her mind clearly somewhere else. I leaned back in my seat, trying to gather my thoughts. The longer this search went on, the more questions I had. What was Ruth running from? And why hadn't she come back for Anna? I could see Anna's eyes flicker with uncertainty as she looked out the window, and I knew she was feeling the same weight. "You know," I said after a moment, trying to break the silence, "this isn't easy. I can't pretend to know what you're going through. I don't have all the answers, but I do know one thing. You don't have to go through this alone. I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere." She turned to look at me, her eyes still full of doubt. "I don't know what's going to happen," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "What if she's not out there? What if I never find her?" Her words hung in the air, heavy and full of fear. I reached across the table, gently placing my hand over hers. "We will find her," I said firmly, my voice steady. "I don't know how, but I promise you, we won't stop. You have me, and I'm not going anywhere." Anna's eyes softened a little, and she gave me a small nod. For the first time in a while, I saw something shift in her expression. It wasn't much, but it was something. A glimmer of trust, of hope. That was all I needed. It wasn't going to be easy, I knew that. But I also knew that we were closer than ever to finding the answers, and I wasn't going to let her down. After a moment of silence, Anna spoke again, her voice quieter now. "I never thought I'd be here," she said, looking down at her hands. "I never thought I'd be asking for help. I thought I could do it on my own. But now I don't know." "It's okay to need help," I said, my voice soft but firm. "We all need help sometimes. There's no shame in that." Anna didn't respond, but I could see her thinking, processing the words. The waitress brought our drinks over, and I took a sip of the coffee, my mind racing with the possibilities. We had a lead, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't the answer we needed, not yet, but it was a start. And as long as we kept moving forward, I knew we would get there. We had to. The longer I sat there with Anna, the more I realized that I wasn't just helping her find her mother, I was also helping her find herself, and maybe, just maybe, I was starting to find something too. Something I had been missing for a long time. The days were getting longer, the weight of our search pressing on both of us. Anna's mother had become more than just a name. She had become a mystery we were both desperate to solve. The shelter had been our last lead, and now, every moment felt like we were running out of time. Anna had started to withdraw again, her silence more pronounced, her eyes distant as if she were already preparing for disappointment. I could see the walls she had put up, the fear of another failed attempt, but I refused to let her give up. The day I received the call from my contact was a turning point. It was late in the afternoon, the sun casting long shadows across the driveway as I stepped out of the house to get some air. The phone in my pocket buzzed, and I pulled it out quickly. "Logan?" The voice on the other end was urgent. almost breathless. "We've got something. I think we've found her." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice tight with anticipation. "We tracked Ruth down. She's been staying in a small town about 50 miles from here. We think she's still there." I could feel the relief flood through me, but it was mixed with a sense of urgency. "I'm on my way. Give me the address." The conversation ended quickly, and I stood there for a moment, processing the news. Ruth, Anna's mother, was still alive. She was out there, and we were closer than ever to finding her. I rushed inside, my heart pounding. "Anna," I called out as I entered the living room. She looked up from the couch where she had been sitting, her eyes tired but alert. "What is it?" Her voice was calm, but I could see the hope in her eyes, the flicker of something that was buried deep down. "We found her," I said, my voice steady. "Your mom, she's alive. She's in a town about 50 miles away. We can go now." Anna froze for a moment, as if the words hadn't registered. Then, slowly, her eyes welled up with tears, and I saw the walls crumble, just a little. "She's really out there?" she asked, her voice trembling. "She's really alive?" "Yes," I said, taking a step closer to her. "We're going to find her. We're going to bring her back." Anna didn't say anything more, but I saw the mix of emotions on her face: hope, fear, and uncertainty. I knew this wasn't just a reunion for her. It was a chance to heal, a chance to put the pieces of her life back together. We drove in silence, the miles stretching out before us, but the closer we got, the more I could feel the tension in the air. Anna was barely holding it together. I could see her hands gripping the seatbelt, her fingers turning white from the pressure. "Anna," I said softly, glancing over at her. "You don't have to do this if you're not ready. I can go in first. You don't have to face this alone." She shook her head, her eyes focused on the road ahead. "I have to. I've waited too long. I need to know the truth." I nodded, my heart swelling with pride for her. She was stronger than she realized. We pulled into the small town as the sun was beginning to set, the streets quiet and empty. The address my contact had given me led us to a small house on the outskirts of town. It was nothing special, just a modest, two-story home with peeling paint and a small porch. This was where Ruth had been hiding. I parked the car in front of the house, and for a moment, neither of us moved. The silence between us was heavy, filled with the weight of everything that had led to this moment. "Are you ready?" I asked, turning to Anna. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Let's go." We walked up to the front door, and as I reached for the knocker, I hesitated. What if Ruth didn't want to see her? What if this was all a mistake? I glanced over at Anna, who was standing beside me, her eyes fixed on the door. She was nervous, but there was determination in her steps. She wasn't backing down. I knocked, and the sound echoed in the quiet evening air. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the door creaked open, and there she was. Ruth. She looked older than Anna probably remembered, her face drawn and tired, but it was her, the woman who had once been a mother, now standing before us like a ghost. "Can I help you?" Ruth asked, her voice shaky. Her eyes flickered over us, and then they landed on Anna. The recognition was instant. Ruth's face went pale, her eyes wide with disbelief. Anna stood frozen, her breath caught in her throat. "Mom?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Ruth didn't say anything at first. She just stared at Anna, her eyes filled with a mix of shock and something else, regret, perhaps, or fear. "Anna?" Ruth's voice cracked. "Is it really you?" Anna took a step forward, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's me, Mom. I've been looking for you. I didn't know where you went. I didn't know if you were alive." Ruth's eyes filled with tears, and she took a shaky step toward Anna. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry for everything." Anna's breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, I thought she might fall apart right then and there. But instead, she took another step toward Ruth, her voice steady. "I just wanted to know you were okay. I've missed you." And just like that, the pieces began to fall into place. Anna had found her mother, and for the first time in a long while, the future felt a little clearer. The silence between them was deafening, and for a moment, I wondered if we had come too soon, if the questions we were asking had opened wounds that were too deep to heal. But then Anna spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. filled with the kind of vulnerability I hadn't heard before. "Mom, why did you leave? Why didn't you come back for me?" Ruth stood there, her face full of regret and pain. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, as if the words were stuck somewhere deep inside her, unable to break free. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ruth's voice came out shaky and soft. "I never wanted to leave you, Anna, but I had to. I was running away from something." Anna took a step back, her face a mixture of confusion and hurt. "Running away from what? From me?" Ruth closed her eyes for a moment, her hand reaching up to rub her forehead, like the weight of the past was too much to bear. "No, not from you, but from everything else. The life I built, the lies I told. I couldn't keep living like that. I thought I was protecting you by leaving." The words hung in the air, heavy with truth, but Anna wasn't sure if she was ready to accept them. "You think you were protecting me?" Anna's voice cracked, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. "I spent all these years wondering why you disappeared, wondering if you were dead, and now you tell me it was to protect me?" Ruth's shoulders sagged, the weight of Anna's words sinking in. "I know it's hard to understand, but I thought it was the only way to keep you safe. The people I was involved with, they weren't good people. I didn't want you to be caught in the middle of it." Anna's breath caught in her throat. "The people you were involved with? What does that mean?" Ruth looked away, unable to meet Anna's gaze. "I made some bad choices, Anna. Choices I thought I could handle, but they spiraled out of control. I was trying to get out before they could hurt you." Anna's hand trembled as she wiped her eyes. "So, you left me to protect me? You made a choice to just disappear?" Ruth's voice cracked as she stepped forward, reaching for Anna. "I never stopped thinking about you. Every day I wanted to come back, but I couldn't. I thought if I stayed away, you'd be safe. But I see now that I was wrong. I should have fought harder. I should have come back sooner." The words were like daggers, each one piercing Anna's heart, and I could see her trying to hold herself together. She looked at Ruth, her mother, for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, and all she could feel was a whirlwind of emotions. "You should have come back," Anna whispered, tears flowing freely now. "You should have come back for me." Ruth reached out and gently took Anna's hands in hers. "I'm so sorry, Anna. I can't change the past, but I'm here now, and I will never leave you again." There was a long pause, the weight of everything they had been through lingering between them, but slowly, Anna squeezed Ruth's hands. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet," she said, her voice shaking, "but I want to. I want to try." Ruth's eyes filled with tears as she nodded, her voice breaking. "I'll spend the rest of my life making up for what I did. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. It felt like time had frozen, like everything had come to a halt. But in that silence, I saw the beginning of something healing. Anna wasn't ready to forgive yet, and I knew it would take time. But she had found her mother. She had found the truth, and that was enough to start. Ruth had a long road ahead of her, but so did Anna. They had both been living with the weight of the past, but now, together, they could begin to move forward. I stepped back, giving them space. This was their moment, their chance to rebuild what had been broken. And as I watched them, I realized that this was more than just about finding a lost mother or daughter. It was about healing, about letting go of the past and opening up to a future that hadn't seemed possible before. "Thank you," Anna whispered to me, her voice filled with gratitude and exhaustion. "For everything, for not giving up on me." I smiled at her, though my heart was heavy with the knowledge of how much they still had to work through. "You don't have to thank me," I said quietly. "I'm just glad you found each other. That's all that matters." And for the first time, Anna smiled, a small, shaky smile, but it was a start. I didn't know what the future held for them, but I knew that this was the beginning of something important. They had a long way to go, but they were finally on the path to healing, together. The days that followed Ruth's return were not easy, but they were necessary. There were moments of tension, long silences, and the kind of awkwardness that comes with trying to reconnect after years of separation. Anna and Ruth, mother and daughter, were facing something far greater than just the pain of the past. They were trying to rebuild a relationship from the ground up, one broken piece at a time. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that was enough. I stayed in the background, giving them the space they needed, but always ready to step in when Anna needed support. I had promised her that I wouldn't let her go through this alone, and I intended to keep that promise. One evening, after dinner, Anna came to me, her face serious, her eyes full of questions. "Logan, can I talk to you for a minute?" Her voice was steady, but I could hear the weight of the question in her tone. "Of course," I said, motioning for her to sit beside me. She hesitated for a moment before sitting down, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "I don't know what to do," she began. "I've spent so much time wanting to find my mom, to know the truth about everything, and now that she's here, it's not what I thought it would be. It's hard, Logan." I nodded, understanding the complexity of what she was feeling. It was one thing to have a missing piece of your life returned to you, but it was another to find that piece wasn't exactly how you imagined. "It's okay to feel that way," I said gently. "You don't have to have all the answers right now. This is a process, and it's going to take time, but you don't have to do it alone." Anna looked up at me, her eyes filled with both gratitude and doubt. "I want to forgive her, Logan. I really do, but I'm scared. What if I let her in and she just leaves again? What if it all falls apart?" Her voice trembled with fear, and I could see the vulnerability beneath the surface, the fear of being hurt again. "You can't control the future, Anna," I said softly, "but you can control how you move forward, and right now, you're choosing to give her a chance. That's a big step." She nodded slowly, but the fear was still there, lingering in her eyes. I reached out, placing a reassuring hand on hers. "You don't have to make any big decisions right now," I said. "Take it one day at a time. And remember, you're not alone. I'm here. Ruth is here. We're both here for you." Anna took a deep breath, the weight of her emotions heavy in her chest. "Thanks, Logan," she said quietly. "I don't know what I would do without you." I gave her a small smile. "You don't have to worry about that. I'm not going anywhere." Over the next few weeks, things started to settle. Ruth and Anna were slowly rebuilding their relationship, but there were still moments of uncertainty, moments when the past would rear its head and threaten to undo the fragile progress they had made. There were days when Ruth would look at Anna, her eyes filled with regret, and days when Anna would retreat into herself, unsure of how to process everything. But despite all the bumps along the way, there was a sense of hope that had begun to grow between them. They were finding their way back to each other, slowly but surely. One evening, after dinner, Ruth sat down with me in the living room. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice sincere but tinged with guilt. "You've done more for Anna than I could ever repay." I shook my head. "You don't have to thank me, Ruth. I just did what anyone would do." But Ruth shook her head, her eyes welling with tears. "No, Logan, you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to take her in. You didn't have to give her a place to stay, a chance to heal. You could have walked away, but you didn't." I could see the emotion in her eyes, the depth of her gratitude. "She needed you," I said quietly, "and I knew you needed her too. Sometimes we don't realize how much we need someone until they're gone. But it's never too late to start again." Ruth nodded, wiping her eyes. "I've spent so many years running from my mistakes, hiding from the truth, but now I see that I don't have to keep running. I can face it. I can face her. I can face myself." I watched as she sat back, taking a deep breath, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "You've come a long way," I said softly. "Both of you have, and I know it's not easy. But I also know that you're stronger than you think." Ruth gave me a grateful smile, and I could see the healing beginning, even if it was slow and painful. "Thank you, Logan, for everything, for being there when she needed you, and for being here now, when I need you." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle in my chest. It had been a long, difficult journey, but it was far from over. But the one thing I was sure of was this: they had both come home, and no matter what the future held, they had each other. And that was enough. "You don't have to worry about that. I'm not going anywhere." Over the next few weeks, things started to settle. Ruth and Anna were slowly rebuilding their relationship, but there were still moments of uncertainty, moments when the past would rear its head and threaten to undo the fragile progress they had made. There were days when Ruth would look at Anna, her eyes filled with regret, and days when Anna would retreat into herself, unsure of how to process everything. One afternoon, after a long day of cleaning out the attic, Anna sat beside me on the porch. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the quiet yard. And for the first time in a while, there was a calmness in the air that felt peaceful, almost permanent. Anna had been quiet, lost in her thoughts, and I could tell she was reflecting on everything that had happened. "Logan," she said after a while, her voice soft but steady, "I don't know what to do next." I turned to her, my heart aching with the knowledge that even though they had made so much progress, Anna was still so unsure of where her place was in this world. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice as gentle as possible. "I mean, everything is changing," she said, looking out at the setting Sunday. "And I'm scared. What if it doesn't stay like this? What if it all falls apart again?" Her eyes were full of fear, but there was something else there, too, a glimmer of hope that she wasn't sure how to hold on to. "Anna," I said softly, placing my hand on hers, "it's okay to be scared, but just because things have changed doesn't mean they're going to fall apart. You've got your mom back, and you've got me, too, and we're not going anywhere. You don't have to face this alone anymore." She was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "But what if I can't forgive her? What if I'm not ready for that?" My heart broke a little for her. I had seen the weight of the pain she carried, the years of wondering why Ruth had left, the years of living with that emptiness. Forgiveness wasn't something that could be rushed, it was something that had to come in its own time. "You don't have to forgive her right now," I said gently. "It's okay to take your time. What matters is that you're here now, and you're giving yourself the chance to heal. It's a process, and it's one that can't be rushed." Anna looked at me, and for the first time in a while, I saw something in her eyes, something close to peace. She wasn't sure about everything, but she was willing to try. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. I smiled at her, squeezing her hand. "You don't have to thank me. You've come so far already." The days continued to pass, and although the tension was still there sometimes, it was less intense. Ruth and Anna were learning to communicate better, slowly peeling back the layers of their past that had been buried for so long. There were moments of laughter, moments when they would sit and talk for hours about the small things they had missed in each other's lives, things that they had once taken for granted. But there were also moments of silence, moments when the weight of their history would hang in the air like a thick fog. They were both still trying to find their footing, but I could see the light slowly returning to Anna's eyes. She wasn't as withdrawn as she had been when she first arrived at my house. She was more open now, more willing to accept the love that Ruth had to offer, even if it was still hard for her to accept fully. One night, after dinner, Ruth asked Anna to sit down with her in the living room. I watched from the doorway as Ruth spoke softly to her daughter. "I know I can never make up for the years I missed," Ruth said, her voice thick with emotion, "but I want to try. I want to be here for you, every step of the way." Anna looked at her, her expression a mixture of sadness and something else, something that was beginning to resemble trust. "I don't know if I'm ready to forgive you, Mom," Anna said, her voice quiet but firm. "But I want to. I want to try. I need time." Ruth nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I understand," she said softly, "and I'll wait. I'll wait for as long as it takes." There was a long pause between them, but it wasn't filled with anger or resentment. It was filled with something else, something that felt like the first step toward healing. Anna stood up then, walking over to Ruth, and for the first time, I saw her wrap her arms around her mother. It wasn't a perfect hug, but it was a start. It was a beginning, and that was more than I could have hoped for. I watched them, standing there together, and I realized something in that moment. The past couldn't be undone, but the future was still theirs to shape. They had a long way to go, but they were finally walking toward each other, and that was enough. It had been several months since Ruth and Anna had started rebuilding their relationship, and things were finally starting to settle. The emotional roller coaster of the past weeks was beginning to feel like a distant memory, replaced by a sense of peace that had settled over the house. Anna was more open now, more willing to accept the love and support that Ruth had to offer, and Ruth, for her part, was more patient and understanding than I could have imagined. They still had their ups and downs, moments of tension and uncertainty, but they were no longer broken. They were learning to heal, together. It was a quiet afternoon when Anna came to me, a look of determination in her eyes. She had been spending more time with Ruth lately, talking and sorting through the past, and I could see the progress they were making. "Logan," she said, her voice firm but filled with something I hadn't heard in a long time, hope. "I think I'm ready to forgive her." I looked up at her, my heart swelling with pride. "That's a big step, Anna," I said gently. "But it's your decision, and you don't have to rush it. You've come so far already." She nodded, her face a mix of relief and uncertainty. "I know," she said, "but I think I'm ready to let go of the anger. I can't keep holding on to it. It's been holding me back, and I don't want to live like that anymore." I could see the strength in her words, the strength she had found in herself after everything she had been through. It wasn't just about forgiving Ruth, it was about forgiving herself, too. For the first time, I saw Anna begin to let go of the weight she had carried for so long. It wasn't easy, and I knew there would be hard days ahead, but this was a turning point for her, and for Ruth. Over the next few weeks, their relationship continued to grow, slowly but surely. They shared more moments of tenderness, more conversations about the past, and as each day passed, the bond between them grew stronger. Ruth, in her own quiet way, was doing everything she could to make up for the years she had missed. She was patient, understanding, and most of all, present. And Anna, in return, was learning to trust again, to allow herself to feel the love that had once been lost. One evening, as the sun set and the warm glow of the living room enveloped us, I found myself sitting on the porch with Anna, the same place where we had talked so many months ago. This time, there was no fear, no uncertainty, just a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in a long time. "I don't know how you did it," Anna said softly, looking out at the horizon. "You helped me find her, and you didn't give up on me. Even when I pushed you away, even when I was scared." I smiled at her, feeling a warmth in my chest that I hadn't known I needed. "You don't have to thank me, Anna," I said, my voice steady. "You found your way. You were always stronger than you realized. I just helped you see that." Anna turned to look at me, her eyes shining with a gratitude that was overwhelming. "I know," she said quietly, "and I'll never forget it." As I looked at her, I realized something. This journey had changed both of us. Anna had found her mother, and Ruth had found her daughter again. But somewhere along the way, I had found something too. A sense of purpose, a sense of family. I wasn't just helping them, I was learning to help myself. And in that moment, I knew that we had all been broken, but we were healing. And that was enough. The road ahead would still have its challenges, its tough moments, but we had come this far, and we would keep going, together, and that was all that mattered. In this heartfelt and emotional journey, the story of a young girl's search for her long-lost mother unfolds, bringing to light the struggles, healing, and eventual reconciliation that many can relate to. This gripping narrative dives deep into the world of Black stories, exploring themes of abandonment, hope, and forgiveness. As Anna embarks on a life-changing quest to find her mother, her journey mirrors the resilience of those facing adversity in their own lives. The plot twists and turns, capturing the emotional essence of Black stories and the power of redemption. With each step closer to the truth, Anna learns the strength of family, trust, and the importance of never giving up. This powerful tale highlights the deep-rooted connection found in Black stories and offers a glimpse into the complexities of healing, identity, and self-discovery. Anna's story is a reminder of the enduring human spirit, and through her struggles and triumphs, we see the undeniable bond that can be formed in Black stories. Whether it is about healing old wounds or finding lost connections, this narrative serves as a testament to the importance of love, forgiveness, and the enduring journey towards reconciliation.